Remember when one mall trip filled a Saturday and every doorway held a familiar name? 1. Orange Julius. Before food courts became standardized, the whir of an Orange Julius blender could pull you halfway down the tiled concourse. That pale, frothy drink was cold, sweet, and strangely creamy, with a flavor that never tasted quite like ordinary orange juice. Parents might stop for coffee elsewhere, but children knew exactly which counter promised a paper cup and a foamy orange treat. The stand itself was often small, yet the sound carried beyond nearby shoe stores, clothing racks, and benches filled with resting shoppers. In the 1970s and 1980s, an Orange Julius break could become the unofficial halfway point of a long family shopping trip. You stood near the counter watching the blender spin, then carried your drink carefully through crowds moving in both directions. For many shoppers, the memory is less about a menu than that first cold sip after hours under bright mall lights. Orange Julius turned something simple into a mall ritual, and decades later, that blender can still seem to echo. 2. KB Toys. For a child, KB Toys could make the rest of the mall disappear the instant its crowded entrance came into view. The store seemed packed from floor to ceiling, with narrow aisles that made every shelf feel impossibly full of discoveries. Near the entrance, moving toys often performed their little routines, designed perfectly to stop children before their parents could escape. A mechanical dog might bark, tumble, or flip, while battery-powered cars and noisy gadgets competed for attention a few feet away. Unlike the huge standalone toy warehouses, KB felt compressed, bright, busy, and unmistakably built for the enclosed shopping mall. Children pressed close to boxes, studied action figures, and began negotiations that parents had probably heard 100 times before. Birthday money suddenly became serious business when every few steps revealed another toy that seemed better than the last one. The cramped aisles that once felt inconvenient now belonged to the memory. Noisy, colorful, crowded, and almost impossible to pass. 3. Kinney Shoes. Kinney Shoes represented a very different childhood ritual, standing still while an adult decided whether your feet had grown again. A salesperson brought out the metal Brannock device, guided your heel into place, and measured a foot you swore felt fine. The store carried that familiar mixture of new leather, carpeting, cardboard shoe boxes, and the faint rubber smell of fresh soles. Back-to-school season meant sitting while boxes appeared from the stockroom, each pair followed by the required walk across the carpet. Parents checked the toe, salespeople checked the fit, and children stared toward the mall, wondering how much longer this would take. Kinney promoted itself as the Great American Shoe Store, and for many families, the name truly felt like part of ordinary life. New school shoes might feel stiff on the first day, but buying them was one of those dependable late summer family routines. Today, shoes often arrive in shipping boxes. Kinney belonged to an era when getting the right pair required sitting down together. 4. Chess King. Then there was Chess King, where the mood changed before you had even crossed the threshold from the brighter mall concourse. This was not the store where Dad bought a sensible work shirt. It was aimed squarely at young men chasing the moment. Dark interiors, geometric displays, loud music, and sharply styled clothing gave the place an edge that could feel almost theatrical. By the 1980s, skinny ties, unusual zippers, bold cuts, and trend-driven outfits made the racks look nothing like traditional menswear. For teenagers, simply browsing could feel like trying on a different identity, one built for Friday night rather than Monday morning. Parents might question the price or the style, while a teenager saw exactly the jacket that everyone would notice at school. The store captured an important part of mall culture. Shopping had become social, expressive, and increasingly aimed at specific youth tribes. When those stores vanished, They took with them a very particular slice of late 70s and 80s teenage mall confidence. 5. Waldenbooks. After the noise of Chess King, Waldenbooks offered one of the mall's most dependable changes of pace, a quieter doorway lined with books. Inside, the smell of new paper and printed pages replaced perfume counters, food smells, and the constant movement of the concourse. Mass-market paperbacks filled shelves and spinning racks, while new hardcovers and bestsellers gave adults a reason to linger much longer. Children could drift toward familiar series, while parents browsed mysteries, romances, biographies, travel guides, or whatever had caught their attention. Waldenbooks became such a familiar mall presence that meeting there, waiting there, or killing 20 minutes there felt completely natural. It was also a refuge for family members who had temporarily reached their limit on dresses, shoes, appliances, or department store wandering. Nobody needed an algorithm to suggest the next book. Sometimes a cover, a title, or a few pages did all the work. For many former mall shoppers, remembering Waldenbooks means remembering how easy it once was to wander into reading by accident. 6. Casual Corner. Casual Corner belonged to another familiar mall chapter, especially for women building wardrobes for offices, interviews, dinners, and everyday professional life. Its racks leaned toward polished clothing rather than disposable trends, with coordinated pieces that made putting together an outfit feel manageable. Blazers, skirts, sweaters, and carefully arranged colors gave the store a composed atmosphere that contrasted with louder youth fashion shops nearby. For many baby boomer women entering or advancing in the workforce, stores like this helped define what looking professional could mean. Shopping was often assisted by salespeople who knew the merchandise and could suggest another size, another color, or a matching piece. A mother might disappear into a fitting room while the rest of the family waited outside, watching shoppers stream along the concourse. Those ordinary waits are part of mall memory too, because a family shopping trip rarely moved at the same speed for everyone. That quiet reliability made it a fixture in countless shopping memories, even when the purchase itself has long since been forgotten. 7. RadioShack. RadioShack was where a tiny electronic problem could send you toward a wall covered with more parts than you knew existed. Cables, plugs, switches, batteries, adapters, and components hung from pegs, turning a small mall store into a workshop supply cabinet. Hobbyists came with specific questions, while curious children came because there was usually something electronic they were allowed to touch. In the late 1970s and early 1980s, a TRS-80 computer on display could make the future seem suddenly reachable from the mall. CB radios, scanners, remote control gear, and small electronics gave the store a hands-on character that later phone-focused years would change. Then there was the Battery Club, remembered for the simple ritual of bringing in a card for a free battery each month. That small promotion could turn a routine mall visit into an excuse to stop by, even when nothing else needed replacing. At its best, RadioShack made technology feel repairable and understandable, something you could examine closely rather than simply replace. 8. Sam Goody. At Sam Goody, music was not something floating invisibly from a phone. It occupied real space, organized in rows and bins. Shoppers flipped through album jackets one by one, hearing that soft, repeated slap as cardboard sleeves fell forward under their fingers. Cover art mattered because an LP was large enough to study, hold, turn over, and inspect before deciding to spend your money. Cassette tapes gradually claimed more territory, giving teenagers another format for car stereos, portable players, and carefully assembled personal collections. A new release could justify a special mall trip, especially when friends had already started talking about an album you had not heard. You might arrive intending to buy one record, and spend half an hour checking other artists simply because the bins invited browsing. In some locations and eras, ticket services added another reason for music fans to stop, linking the mall directly to upcoming concerts. For anyone who saved allowance or paycheck money for albums, those rows of records can still represent anticipation in physical form. 9. B. Dalton Bookseller. If Waldenbooks was your mall bookstore, B. Dalton was often the rival, waiting in another mall or sometimes farther down the same concourse. Dark wood shelving and orderly displays gave many locations a slightly formal feeling, even though the store remained easy to browse. Best sellers stood where passing shoppers could spot them, while deeper shelves rewarded anyone willing to disappear for a few quiet minutes. Adults compared new releases, teenagers checked science fiction or humor, and children searched for the next book in a favorite series. The rivalry between B. Dalton and Waldenbooks now feels almost luxurious. Malls once supported competing stores devoted mainly to printed books. Each had loyal shoppers, but both shared the same important habit of letting people browse without knowing exactly what they wanted. A book could become an impulse purchase because you saw it face out, read the jacket, and decided to take a chance. Remembering it means remembering a time when bookstores were not destinations outside the mall. They were woven directly into the walk. 10. The Limited. By the 1980s, The Limited helped give the American mall a cleaner, brighter, more fashion-conscious look aimed at young women. Mirrors, polished fixtures, and carefully presented clothing made the store feel current before a shopper had even touched a rack. Names such as Forenza and Outback Red became part of the era's fashion vocabulary for customers who followed mall trends closely. Sweaters, coordinated separates, and unmistakably 80s silhouettes turned the store into a place where an entire look could come together. For teenage girls and young women, a limited shopping bag could carry some of the status once associated with department store labels. The experience was different from shopping with older relatives at a traditional anchor. This felt younger, faster, and designed around personal style. Friends could browse together, compare colors, hold clothes against themselves, and imagine what would work at school or on the weekend. Its disappearance reminds shoppers how quickly a store that once seemed permanently modern can become a marker of a vanished decade. 11. Tom McCann. Tom McCann brought the mall back to practical business. School shoes, work shoes, boots, and dependable footwear meant to be worn hard. Many stores had sturdy seating where customers waited while a salesperson disappeared into the back and returned carrying stacked shoe boxes. Trying on shoes meant walking several steps, turning around, and listening while someone judged the fit with more authority than you had. The squeak of a fresh sole against tile or carpet was often the first sound a new pair made outside the box. Compared with trendier fashion stores, Tom McCann could feel straightforward, built around shoes that needed to survive school days and work weeks. Parents appreciated that practicality, especially when growing children seemed capable of needing another pair only months after the last purchase. The Tom McCann name later continued as a footwear brand, but the familiar physical storefronts gradually disappeared from American malls. For shoppers who remember those heavy seats and stacked boxes, even practical shoe buying now carries an unexpected warmth. 12. Mervyn's. For millions of Western shoppers, Mervyn's was not a minor tenant. It was one of the large destinations that helped define the mall. It offered department store variety without always feeling as formal as the traditional names that anchored older downtown shopping districts. Families went there for school clothes, everyday apparel, household needs, and the kind of purchases that filled several bags at once. Clearance racks had their own gravity, pulling bargain hunters into one more search even when everyone else was ready to leave. Mervyn's grew especially familiar in California and other Western markets, so its nostalgia is powerful but should never be called universal. That regional strength is part of the story. American mall memories were shared nationally, yet the names above the doors changed by place. Many people also remember the later "open, open, open" advertising, which became strongly associated with the chain's bargain shopping personality. For former customers, losing Mervyn's meant losing one of those dependable landmarks that once made a local mall feel like their mall. 13. Spencer Gifts. Spencer Gifts was the store children noticed, teenagers entered eagerly, and some parents viewed with a mixture of amusement and suspicion. The front might greet you with jokes and novelty items, but farther inside, the lighting often grew darker and stranger. Black lights made fluorescent posters glow, while lava lamps, gag gifts, unusual decorations, and counterculture imagery created sensory overload in a small space. For a teenager, the appeal was partly merchandise and partly the feeling that the store belonged to a world adults did not control. Friends wandered in to laugh at things they had no intention of buying, turning browsing itself into part of a mall afternoon. The store's edgier merchandise could push boundaries, but its broader memory is that unmistakable atmosphere of jokes, glow, color, and mild rebellion. Spencer Gifts survived when many neighbors vanished. Yet walking into an older location could still feel like crossing into another mall universe. That contrast is exactly why Spencer remains such a powerful symbol of the mall as a social world, not merely a marketplace. 14. York Steakhouse. After hours of shopping, York Steakhouse offered something far heavier than a snack, a full hot meal without leaving the mall. This was not simply another food court counter. Many locations operated as cafeteria-style restaurants with their own distinct dining atmosphere. You picked up a tray and moved it along metal rails, choosing sides and desserts before reaching the main part of the meal. Wood paneling and old-fashioned decorative touches could make the dining room feel removed from the bright retail concourse just outside. For some families, a steak dinner at the mall felt like a small occasion, especially after a long Saturday of shopping together. Red Jell-O, potatoes, rolls, desserts, and other cafeteria choices became supporting memories around the plate everyone had really come for. York was especially familiar in parts of the East and Midwest, so not every American mall shopper encountered the same ritual. Dinner there reminds us that the old mall was built to hold an entire day. Shopping, wandering, meeting, resting, and finally eating. 15. Montgomery Ward. At the end of the concourse stood the kind of store that made everything around it feel smaller. Montgomery Ward. For generations of shoppers, Ward's was more than another shop. Its enormous mall locations could serve as one of the building's main anchors. You could enter looking for clothing and wander toward appliances, furniture, household goods, tools, or departments that seemed to stretch endlessly. Some locations connected the shopping experience with automotive service, adding the smell and practical business of tires and maintenance to the memory. The catalog tradition still lingered too, linking the modern mall store to an older way Americans had ordered goods for their homes. Families separated inside and agreed where to meet, because a large department store could consume more time than several smaller shops combined. Ward's was national, familiar, and seemingly permanent, the kind of retail name people assumed would always occupy a major place in American life. Yet its physical stores ultimately disappeared, while the Montgomery Ward name later continued in other forms rather than vanishing completely. When an old Ward's anchor went dark, the empty space could make the whole mall feel as though an era had ended. Those old malls were never identical, but the familiar mix of books, shoes, records, toys, food, and department stores created a shared rhythm. A blender at Orange Julius, a toy moving outside KB, and a measuring device at Kinney could each unlock a different Saturday. Waldenbooks, RadioShack, and Sam Goody remind us how often discovery once happened simply because we wandered through an open doorway. Chess King, The Limited, Casual Corner, and Spencer Gifts made the mall a place to test identities as much as buy things. York Steakhouse and Montgomery Ward recall the scale of the day itself, when shopping could stretch from lunch until the lights outside changed. The stores are mostly gone, but close your eyes, and that old concourse can still feel crowded, bright, familiar, and waiting just ahead.